Wait till they see this one.
Yeah, if this goes off smoothly, I don't see why we can't do one next Wednesday and then the day before the draft, or probably Tuesday, so we can get 2 days of a run.
I say we do it daily, Omar.
We ain't got nothing else to do.
Emma, Kate, and Sean were like, no thanks. I don't think so. Yeah, true. Silence. Silence.
Important thoughts to be shared.
What are you doing, Omar? What are you doing in all your home time now?
Uh, I mean, this is really what I would be doing generally during draft time. I literally sit there and watch football probably 5 hours a day. I was watching the last night. I was watching. I had,
Omar, just because the microphone's live doesn't mean you have to talk like that. Come
no,
on.
no, no, no. I was watching Joe Herbert again just because of all the Herbert buzz. I mean, I've watched him over and over again, and I was watching I was watching a California game and then the Auburn game, and I'm like, I can understand why people would invest in it. It's just not for me.
Yeah, the Auburn game. There were a couple games that he didn't play well, and the rest of them he played pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, I think he did pretty
Auburn,
well in the Auburn game, except for like,
well, the end of the game, yeah,
yeah.
except when you're really judging them, right? I mean,
But the value to me of this is I don't watch college football on a regular basis, so I don't have a clue what happened in most of these games, or I don't remember. So it's like totally brand new for me. So just imagine if people had like NFL games they hadn't watched and have no idea how it ended. Like, all right. Do 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 do.
I'm taking up the piano, just so you know, Omar.
Oh, are you? That's interesting. Are you getting good?
Well, good. After 10,000 days of this, I'll be good. But 2 weeks into it, I'm not any good.
I took piano as a kid for about 4 years. Wasn't a big fan of it. I just realized music was not my thing.
Now you wish you stuck with it, though. So I was the same way. I quit in fourth grade.
Uh, do I wish I would have stuck with it? No, I don't think so. A lot of things in life I wish I would have stuck with. Piano was not one of them. No.
You could be in a weekend band right now.
But we'd have nowhere to play.
It could be the X's and Omars. What kind of a band would that be?
I'd rather be in a dance group than a band. Like, nah.
Wow, aren't you prepared? A Sun Sentinel mug. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I want to keep things as normal as possible.
I don't have a Sun Sentinel mug. Did you buy that?
No, I got it at the NABJ conference. We were giving it out.
Oh.
I should have gotten a lot of stuff we give out that nobody who works there gets. All right. Welcome, South Florida and all NFL fans. Welcome to the COVID-19 pandemic episode of X's and Omar. I am your host, Omar Kelly, Sun Sentinel columnist and Dolphins beat writer. And this is my partner, Dave Hyde, quarantined down. I'm proud Dave shaved for us today. Dave, what's quarantine life like for you?
Practicing physical distancing, not just social distancing, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's important for everybody right now. But the NFL draft is the only thing that's happening in the sports world right now. And since we'll be discussing the draft and actually have been discussing the draft for what, Dave, an entire year? I figure this is the great time to bring back X's and Omar. We've got a lot of Tua Tagovailoa talk. We got to discuss what are the Dolphins doing with their NFL high 14 selections in this year's draft. I've already given you the introductions. We're cooped up sports fans interested in finding out what our favorite sports teams are doing. And truthfully speaking, this is the only thing happening in the sports world right now. In 2 weeks, we'll have the NFL draft on Thursday. Dave, good idea, bad idea?
Oh, I love the idea. In fact, what I suggest is stretching it out over a week to 10 days because we got nothing else. They can dominate. It takes people's minds off everything.
Absolutely.
And I get it. It's going to be a little more difficult for the NFL general managers. In fact, a lot more difficult in
They
some
should do
cases.
a round a day, Dave. A round a day. We got nothing better to do. If they
Make
want
it
to,
12 rounds. Make it 12 rounds like the old days, Omar.
no, I don't support the 12 round approach. And the reason why
I do this year.
the reason why I don't support 12-round approach is because you can sign after round 7, you can sign any undrafted player that you want by guaranteeing them an amount of money. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be. Dave, stop shaking. What are you doing there?
I'm rolling down to our script to see where this is.
Okay. Steve Ross has spent $243 million in contracts on free agents, Dave. Roughly $132 million of that is guaranteed money to sign players like Byron Jones, who he made temporarily the highest paid cornerback in the NFL, Kyle Van Noy, multidimensional linebacker Eric Flowers, Ted Karras, Jordan Howard, the tailback, Emmanuel Ogbah, Shaq Lawson. How do you assess what Miami has achieved in free agency?
I loved what they did. I loved it. And it's a rare time after Dolphins free agency in the last 10 years, I can say that. But look, they had a ton of holes. So, and they filled a lot of them. But look at the philosophy of it. They went and they got players between ages 25 to 28 for the most part. And last year, the last regime, they got players in their 30s for the most part. And you see the difference. Now, you get guys in the middle of their careers rather than at the end of their careers. So I like that. Look, they filled holes mainly on defense. They got a couple impact players. Byron Jones, you mentioned Kyle Van Noy. They got some hopes at pass rusher. They threw a net out there and hope they get one. And they set up the draft well. So I like what they did.
Yeah, my favorite part about what they did in free agency is that they used where the draft's weaknesses were and they addressed them in free agency. And then the areas where the draft has a lot of strengths in terms of depth and quality players, they left those to be addressed in the draft, and where you're going to get younger and cheaper players. And I like that approach. Now, the question is, will it all deliver a successful team? Again, I always say and remind Dolphin fans, not every team in the NFL has an owner that's going to spend $243 million in free agency or over $100 million in guaranteed money. And props to Steve Ross. He's always been willing to write the check. As he once told me, free agency is his time to get in the game. He can't play, he can't coach, but what he can do is write checks, and I applaud him for that. Well, let's get to our first question, which comes from Strat Nick. Is the team comfortable with Jesse Davis starting at tackle next year, Dave Hyde?
Yeah, I think they're comfortable with it. You saw how he ended last year, the last half of the season. Once he got comfortable at the position, he was good and showed he could be very good if he stays there. The beauty of him is he can play guard or tackle, so you can, make your other decisions accordingly. If there's a great guard out there they like, or it looks like they're just going to have a scrap heap competition at guard, throw everybody, several players there to compete. But if there's a tackle, they could move him into guard. So I think Jesse Davis, look, he's coming out of last season. He was the one valuable piece on the offensive line.
Definitely. I'm a Jesse Davis fan. Everybody knows I'm a card-carrying member of the Jesse Davis fan club. I've watched his emergence the last 3 years, and he did play well at tackle. I think guard is still his best position. But this is more about Julian Davenport and where is their comfort level with him. He struggled early in the season before he got hurt. He struggled when he came back from the broken leg. And he finished the end of the year decently, not strong, but he's going to be contending with whoever they draft at right tackle. There's going to be a ton of players out there, or whoever they draft at tackle. There's going to be a ton of players out there. And Jesse Davis gives you the flexibility. You know that you've at least got 3 starters with Eric Flowers, with Ted Karras, and with Jesse Davis. Now the question is, can you find another 2?
All right, Omar. Next question comes from Kieran, who wants to know why weren't the Dolphins more aggressive on the offensive line?
Well, we just addressed that. I think they have three solid starters, and then you've got young players like actually have the opportunity to bring my roster up. Michael Dieter, Shaq Calhoun. Last year, the guy who started is Danny Isidore, former University of Miami offensive guard. You've got some options there. Julian Davenport, as we just mentioned, there are options there. And the reason I don't think they really went hard in terms of offensive linemen in free agency is because this is a very talented draft when it comes to tackles. Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Willis, Andrew Thomas, the Becton kid from Louisville. There's a lot of tackles who are going to possibly, one of them might be there at 18. You definitely know somebody's going to be there at 5. And the center class is very strong, and I think that they have the potential to draft a starting center, if not in the second round, probably in the 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I'd say, and they would probably answer, we did go hard in free agency on the line. We spent what some people say is they overspent for Eric Flowers. It'll be interesting to see him at guard. Obviously, wasn't good at tackle. He showed signs that he could be good at guard in Washington. So we'll see where that emerges. But based on a good half season or decent half season, they gave him a 3-year, $30 million contract. So they would say, we did spend on the line.
Our third question comes from Scooter, who wants to know, why didn't the Dolphins go after a young nose tackle to help our edge rushers and the ends out?
Well, let's start here. They like the young defensive tackles they have. Okay, obviously Christian Wilkins, the guy they brought in from Baltimore at the end of last year, Zach Sealer.
Sealer.
And Davon Godchow. So they think they have a nucleus there. Now they're going to have to improve over last year, but they're young, and especially at defensive tackle, you think they improve. Now, that said, I thought one of the positions they might upgrade or get a definite run stopper was at nose tackle / defensive tackle, depending on what scheme you're using.
Well, right now, that's one of the areas that I think that they have to definitely address in the draft. They have not re-signed John Jenkins, and I think that there's a possibility that they're probably going to add another defensive tackle, if not 2. But keep in mind, they've also got a young player coming back in Gerald Willis is coming back, and they've also got a defensive end. What was his name? Rookie. Goodness gracious. Jonathan Ledbetter, who actually started the year and produced the sack. So they're going to have. They don't necessarily want a 350-pound nose tackle. I don't know why, but that's just not their approach. They want some 3 and 5 technique defensive linemen, and I think they have a good chance of addressing that in the draft.
All right, T. Poppy has a good one, Omar. Do you believe the Dolphins will still draft a center guard with Ted Karras being on a 1-year contract, targeting someone like Robert Hunt or Cesar Ruiz?
Oh, definitely. I think Ted Karras, the fact that he's on a 1-year contract and he's got some versatility because he can play. He's a natural guard. He transitioned to center. I liked how he played at the end of the season, so I'm all on board with that signing. But then you've got young players like Michigan's Cesar Ruiz, who will likely be there at the end of the first round or early in the second round. Temple's Hennessy, LSU's Lloyd Cushenberry, and then my favorite, one of my man crush guys, the right guard from the LSU, Damian Lewis. You can get a guard and an interior player in the later rounds, and maybe you could double down at that position, draft one, because I could tell you Shaq Lawson didn't perform any worse than Michael Dieter did. So this is a situation where you might be able to double down on drafting one early, drafting one late, and then seeing how it plays out when competition takes place.
Yeah, and look, I love the Karras contract. 1 year, $4 million. That's, for a guy hasn't been hurt. He's played 4 years. He started the end, 15 games for the Patriots last year. So obviously not a huge market for him, but it's a great show me contract that, you love coming in, and he has versatility, as you said, center guard. But look, they're in the market to upgrade all positions right now. I mean, other than cornerback, you could say every position is going to need some upgrading.
Definitely. Which leads us to our next question, which comes from Jordan. Uh, are there other free agents out there that would fit well on this team? And let me lead into this question. I think that there are. Titans cornerback Logan Ryan, he is the missing ingredient in terms of what this team needs, in terms of a guy who can play nickel, who can play rover, who can go on the boundary, who can play safety. He's got familiarity with Brian Flores' scheme. Former Falcon safety Jonathan Cyprien. He is a former FIU product. You're missing a strong safety right now. He is a strong safety that has proven, established himself in the NFL. He's a hometown guy. He's right here down the street. He's still out of work. And then Colts defensive end, Jabal Shear, still doesn't have an employer. He is a local kid. He's spent 10 years in the NFL right now as a starter. Right now, he can give you that edge-setting presence that you might still need to address in this draft. But I think they'll probably wait for those things after free agency.
I think we're at the point right now in free agency where you go through the draft and you see, okay, what do we still need? They signed, 10 players in free agency. They filled a lot of holes. So unless someone's going to give you a great contract, you wait till after the draft and see what you still need. But look, they want a safety. They, according to the Boston Globe, they talked to McCourty up with the Patriots of coming down here, and he stayed there. But you know they're in the market for another safety. So Cyprien maybe, but let's see what the draft brings.
Yeah, they're probably better off addressing it in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes.
All right, there's an ongoing debate in the NFL world about which quarterback the Miami Dolphins prefer, and is that quarterback attainable? This is what we've been talking about all season long, and here we go again because we're getting down to the wire here. What's the price for Joe Burrow? Does Miami have to move up to acquire Tua Tagovailoa? And if you can't have either of those quarterbacks, would they prefer Oregon's Justin Herbert or Utah State's Jordan Love? Where do we stand on those topics, Omar?
I totally understand the obsession with Joe Burrow. That's kind of the reason why you should have tanked the year and lost as many games as possible, so you wouldn't be in this situation. The price on Joe Burrow, in my mind, or based on what I'm hearing, is 3 first-round picks, maybe more. Right now, you would probably have to put on the table your 5th, your 18th, your 26th pick, and probably throw in something a little bit extra in order to get.
Sign me up, Omar. I'm right there. I'm for that. If Cincinnati's all that. Peter King said make it 4 number ones, and he would do it, and I probably would agree.
If you're that committed and convicted on Joe Burrow being an elite quarterback in the next 3 years, then do it. I am not, and which is why I'm more comfortable with staying pat where I am. As you know, there's no secret about this. I have an obsession with Tua Tagovailoa. I do have medical concerns and injury concerns and durability concerns that are not going away, no matter how many videos he puts out, no matter how amazing he looks or talks in his documentary, which keeps being teased, and ESPN needs to tell us when that thing is dropping. The question is, do you move up for him? And I'm at the point now where I'm not comfortable moving up for him unless that price is probably my 26th pick. I would throw in my 26th pick, want something back in exchange for it, but that's about as much as I would offer teams like Detroit and the Giants. And I think the Giants are more of a moving point than Detroit because ultimately, as I wrote in a column earlier this week, no matter what the Giants do, if they trade down and pick up more assets, they're going to end up with the same caliber player. So as long as they're not going to address the quarterback, and I really don't understand why they wouldn't address the quarterback because Daniel Jones is not even in Tua Tagovailoa's league, but I understand where they are and they're committed to Daniel Jones. But I think the Giants are the hot spot. Right now, all it's going to take with the Giants is you give them a 3rd-round pick, you swap up 1 spot, and it's the same thing for the San Diego Chargers. So to me, that's really the negotiating point unless the Lions really want to move down.
Wait a second, Omar. So Tua is your guy.
Yes.
And you were saying, Stampat, don't trade up, but all it would take to trade up is a 3rd-round pick. If Tua is your guy, I'm not going to, and he's not my guy, but I get that. but you would trade up a third round pick just so you're
Absolutely, no question. I would trade up a second round pick. No, no question. I'm just not going to do whatever it takes. I think from the medical standpoint, teams can't touch him, can't see him, can't work him out, can only talk to him on a video screen. He's already the riskiest draft pick in the last decade, and if not more. And everybody's going to this draft as it's a crapshoot. Now, the fact that the Dolphins have 3 first-round picks, it's worth the risk. If I was a team like the Los Angeles Chargers with only 1 first-round pick, I'm not necessarily certain that it would be worth my risk.
Well, the other thing, while I don't want to understate the problem of not being able to physically one-on exam, they got all the records, and if Tua's team is as open as they're being on all this stuff, the videos and the interviews and all this nonsense, they better be open with teams on the medical reports. And I'm sure they are. Why would, and teams, look, when the Dolphins were considering Drew Brees, they got access to a lot of doctors, okay? Trust me. And I'm sure they can get access to a surgeon and other top doctors to look at the medical records and give them, as each team I'm sure is doing the same thing, get a comprehensive view from 5 or 6 top doctors on what they think will happen. But yes, it's
I don't think it's so much the medical right now in terms of the hip. I think it's the concern about durability long term.
Sure.
And
well,
no matter
that's
what,
part of it. That would be part of it.
No matter what.
I mean, that's the main issue, right? That is the main issue. Yes, he could be healed now, but 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. And the other thing that when you look at him, does he have that escapability factor in him? He gets hit more than.
Does he still have it? Does he still have it? Is he going to be able to have that mobility, that durability, that movement skill? Because one of his special traits is his elusiveness, his ability to navigate and move up and move around in the pocket. Does he still have that? And nobody will know because they can't see it.
When Dan Marino tore his Achilles, it was a major injury, obviously, but it wasn't a career-affecting injury from the standpoint he was never a scrambler. He was never a runner. He could still move in the pocket, and he could still throw as well as ever. If Tua loses 20% of his mobility, will he be the same player? And that's the scary thing to me if you're putting all your eggs in the Tua basket, in that, here's a smaller guy who does need mobility, and will he have that mobility even if he comes back healthy from the hip?
Yeah, and he needs a brick wall in front of him too. Don't forget that. Our next question comes from Adam. What do you think Miami needs to do to have what is considered a successful draft?
Well, look, they got a ton of picks. They sacrificed last year 3 number 1 picks, 2 number 2, 14 overall. And I'm consistent on this. A good draft, you got a Pro Bowl player. This draft, you get a franchise quarterback and you get a left tackle, and away we go. Okay. And you obviously, you don't want to swing and miss on the others, but if you're saying what would be the cornerstones of a good draft, you get a quarterback you like, the one you've fallen in love with, and you get a left tackle to put there for the next 5 to 10 years.
This rebuild was not about selecting just any quarterback. It was about selecting a quarterback that can lead this franchise for the next decade and a player that you can build an organization around philosophically, fundamentally, in all facets. And to me, I'm not going to select a quarterback. I'm not settling for a quarterback. So this draft is a disappointment if the organization settles on a quarterback. Like if you settle on on Justin Herbert, who I believe it would be settling. Yes, he could be Josh Allen, but is Josh Allen good enough? For me, it is not good enough. I am not comfortable with that. Also, to me, I would want this draft fortify this offensive line. You've had 2 seasons, 2008 and 2016, where you've had a successful, stable, respectable offensive line. Both of those years, you took that team to the playoffs. Fix the damn offensive line. To me, walk away with a quarterback that is top 15 in the next 3 years and fix the offensive line. I will view it as a successful draft.
All right, Omar. Paulie Walnuts wants to know, besides quarterback and O-line help, which I guess good setup considering our answers, what are your top needs for the Dolphins?
To me, it's about finding playmakers. I mean, if you look at what this organization has done just within a 12-month time span, they've gotten rid of Cameron Wake, Ring of Honor type player, Rashad Jones, Ring of Honor type player, Kenny Stills, a guy who spaced the field, gave you touchdowns, Laramie Tunsil, probably going to be the highest paid left tackle in the NFL, Jarvis Landry, still an elite Pro Bowl player. Within the last couple of years, they've gotten rid of playmakers, game changers, difference makers. You better add at least 3 of them to this team. And I'm talking, I don't care where they are, whether it be an edge setter, whether it be a offensive tackle who doesn't need any help, whether it be a slot receiver, whether it be a running back that can give you 1,000 yards or produce 10 touchdowns in a season. Find and add difference makers, because right now your difference makers on this team are who?
Where's the talent? And that's what we talked about all last year. But look, this was their bold plan. So now they have 5 picks in the top 2 rounds. They're going to have the capability to go out and get those type of players. And now, look, the Chris Greer was given center stage last August, and now he really takes it going into the draft. Now, great free agency from my standpoint, but it's fine to make all those trades for draft picks. You got to hit them. So we'll see what they do with them.
This is a good question. My favorite question. I definitely want you to answer it, Dave, because I know you like running backs. I know you disrespect them, but I know you like them. This comes from Daniel. Who is your favorite running back in this draft class, Dave? Dave is frozen. Well, until Dave gets frozen. We've got a
when you're building this team, is don't use a number 1 draft pick on a running back. You have so many needs. You need to build the trenches. So unless and this could be, unless you have such a high grade on Swift that there's no way you're going to pass on him. My thought is there's talent. Jonathan Taylor, for instance, out of Wisconsin, in the 2nd round. That pick like that makes sense to me.
Here's my question to you, and hear me out, Dave. And I understand what your standpoint on don't spend a 1st-round pick on a running back. Okay, I've done the research, I've done the studies, I've talked to people. There are legitimately, arguably, between 23 and 25 legitimate 1st-round picks. Now, there are going to be 32 people selected in the 1st round, but talent-wise, with the grades, there are legitimately my list is 24 1st-round talents. DeAndre Swift is on that list. He is a 1st-round talent. Why would you select a lesser player with your number 26 pick if a 1st-round talent is sitting there on the boards?
Because to me, there are 4 or 5 impact running backs in the NFL, and the rest are pretty much interchangeable. And so you're talking the value of the position, not the value of the player. And if you can replace that player much more easily than you could replace a tackle or a edge rusher, which you could also use the pick on, then that's why you'd. And there's decent running backs that will be there in the 2nd round too. So we're talking the value of the position, not necessarily the value of the player.
So you're okay with selecting an inferior player to address a need?
Well, let's match talent with position for impact, right? You just don't say, oh, this is a better player. Well, let's look at the position too. And as we know, Look at the running backs in the Super Bowl this year. One, Damian Williams from Kansas City, signed there for $1.5 million. Would you say he was a first round pick? But for Kansas City, he played like a first round back this year. And the other one was the San Francisco running back who was on 7 teams, and then he found a spark in San Francisco. So again, to me, running backs, unless you have that special, again, 4 or 5 in the league, and if you rate Swift as one of those, then take him. But other than that, don't use a first round pick on him.
DeAndre Swift is a very talented player who has the potential to be a first-round potential to be a difference maker. But yes, I understand where the Clyde Edwards-Helaire of the Cam Akers, they have the potential to do what you need to get done, but are they special? And we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. But I'm comfortable using the 26th pick on your favorite back, and my favorite back is Swift from Georgia. Our next question comes from Kyle. Given the talent of this year's receiver class, would you spend a day 1 or day 2 pick at receiver, despite it arguably being one of the deepest positions on this roster?
Well, this is a great question because, again, this is a very deep receiver draft. You got some talent there. And the question for Chan Gailey to figure out is Devontae Parker had a great season last year. I saw Chris Sims yesterday rated Devontae Parker as the second best player in the AFC East. Okay, so the question with Devontae Parker
offensive player or
maybe it was offensive player, but I just saw player. So
he's the second best player on the Dolphins. No disrespect,
but the idea is he's not a crisp route runner. Okay, he is a throw the ball up and he'll go up and get it. Okay, and what do they want in their offense? And I'm not saying to diminish Devontae Parker, but more to a question of what do they need right now. Absolutely go out and get a receiver. The question is where and what are they looking for? They have 2 big receivers in Devontae and Preston Williams, but again, neither of them are proven crisp route runners. And does Chan Gailey, as this offense develops, need that? As Bill Belichick and Tom Brady definitely needed, good route runners and disciplined route runners. So we'll have to see what they want in this offense.
Well, to me, this offense is missing spacers, guys who can stretch the field by running 9 routes. That's Jerry Jeudy, that's CeeDee Lamb, that's Henry Ruggs, that's Justin Jefferson. To me, I think you're missing that, and you're missing a slot receiver because we don't know exactly what's going to happen to Albert Wilson. We don't know exactly where he is from a health standpoint. He's still on this roster. But to me, the smartest thing that this organization has done in the last decade is when they didn't have a need at wide receiver, they drafted Jarvis Landry. And that position was stocked. And they used a 2nd-round pick on Jarvis Landry, and he turned out to be the best receiver on the team in 1 year. And I think you have to take the BPA approach. You have to take the best available player. So if a Jerry Jeudy, if the quarterback that you want is gone there at 5, I would not hesitate and take Jerry Jeudy. If he's there, to me, he's a top 5 player in this draft. And I want a top 5 player with my 5th pick. And I certainly would consider a Henry Ruggs III with my number 18th pick if he's still on the board.
All right, I'm not going to disagree. If they take a receiver or a tackle or something with the 5th pick, then you say, what was this whole last year about? That's what I will. But, that also, I guess, tells you they don't like any of the quarterbacks. I think they're going to take a quarterback with the 5th pick, though, Omar. Just a wild guess.
Yeah, let's not force it, though. I don't want to Justin Herbert with the 5th pick. Feel like the whole year will be wasted. The whole purge will be wasted. Well, ding dong, the dynasty is dead, Dave. New England Patriots have let Tom Brady escape their organization. He has chosen to sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Patriots seem to be rebuilding. There was a ridiculous exodus of free agents, which the Dolphins lured a couple of them. Kyle Van Noy, Ted Karras. Now, clearly it took money to lure him, but a lot of organization rebuilding with the Patriots. Is Bill Belichick's reign of terror over in the AFC East, Dave?
Nope, it is not. And everybody who's saying now are they going to take a step back? Yeah, because Tom Brady's not there, and there goes the security blanket for any mistakes in the last 20 years. But look, they kept some players. I'm curious to see that Joe Tooney, the guard, they gave a good contract to Darren McCourty in safety, 32-year-old. So yes, they lost talent. The Patriots lose talent every year, but they kept a lot of their talent and spent a lot of money too. So Bill Belichick to me is like Pat Riley. Pat Riley said, "I ain't rebuilding. We're not sacrificing years." He would never have done what the Dolphins did this year, and Bill Belichick will never toss away a season.
It'll be interesting to see what happens from a quarterback standpoint. Clearly, there's a huge void. They're probably the worst quarterback team in the NFL right now, and we'll see where that goes. But there are some pretty decent veteran quarterbacks still available in free agency as unrestricted players. Cam Newton was released by the Carolina Panthers and is looking for work. Jameis Winston got unseated by Tom Brady, hasn't found an employer yet. New England does not seem very interested. Obviously, the Los Angeles Chargers, they're in the Tua watch with the Miami Dolphins. Any of those quarterbacks possibly interest you as competition for Ryan Fitzpatrick if the Dolphins do not address the quarterback early in this draft, Dave?
I don't even like that qualifier if they don't address you are addressing the quarterback early in the draft, Omar. I'm not even going to consider the rest of that right now.
You won't even factor it into the equation, right? It's not a possibility. What's suppose a quarterback goes at 3 and then another quarterback goes at 4?
Well, then you didn't do your work right, okay? If you like those quarterbacks, here's the thing. Every year, the Dolphins haven't liked quarterbacks. They didn't like, Josh Allen, or they didn't like Lamar Jackson. And
Dwayne Haskins.
You can go down the list. You can always find why you don't like quarterbacks. Look, Patrick Mahomes went 10th. Okay, the best player picked at Lamar Jackson went 32nd. You can find why. And look at these quarterbacks. All of them have warts. That's the thing. They all have questions about them, and legitimate questions. And so you need to cross your fingers and grit your teeth and take one and make it work out. Now, the other question is when you talk about Cam Newton and Jameis Winston, they do have another guy on the roster that we aren't talking about. And you know what? I think we should. I'm not throwing, and at times I was ready to at the end of last year when they wouldn't even put him on the field.
Oh,
but
come
I'm not
on.
throwing Josh Rosen overboard.
You're not. Oh, okay. Let me hear your rationale for Josh Rosen.
How old is he, Omar?
24?
No, I don't even think he's that old. But the point is, he was considered and taken top 10 in the draft. You traded a second. There's talent there. Work with it, mold it, and help it.
I would rather invest in a Cam Newton or a Jameis Winston than go with Josh Rosen. Jameis Winston, I am not a huge fan of, but I think that there's talent there. He's got experience. He could have a Ryan Tannehill situation where he's learned from his struggles early in his career. He needs a great quarterback coach, not to say that he didn't have one in Tampa Bay. And then Cam Newton. We know this guy was once an MVP in the league. The question is his health. I watched his early games because I knew he was going to be available. And I believe that it's more of the shoulder and the throwing arm than the foot. But we don't know. An entire year of not throwing a football could heal Cam Newton's shoulder, and he can come back like the crazy athletic quarterback that he once was, hungry and driven. I would consider Cam Newton. If
Cam Newton is healthy, Omar, absolutely take him. I'm assuming, considering nobody's picked up on him, there still must be something physically wrong with him.
You can't put your hands on him. You can't put your hands on him. I would be way more comfortable exploring Cam Newton once we can travel again and people can have their medical team test him. You go take him out to a field, see him throw a football. He was pushing the football which in technical terms means he was giving all of his arm to throw a 10-yard pass. And that's not healthy, and it doesn't lead to long-term success. So that would be my biggest concern. But if Cam Newton is healthy, which is a huge if, you instantly got a top 10 quarterback.
All right, next question, Omar. Derek asked the biggest question of the offseason. Do you believe the Dolphins can be successful if they don't end up with Tua or Burrow?
Absolutely, I do.
Define successful.
Top 15 quarterback. I think all they need is a top 15 quarterback to produce a winning team. They won 5 games.
Tannehill was a top 15 quarterback,
Who?
Omar.
Who?
Ryan Tannehill was a top 15 quarterback.
Tannehill could have done better if he was healthy and if he had a better weaponry, better coaching, better offense. Yes, I'm just saying the starting point is a top 15 quarterback. Let's get to a top 15 quarterback. Tannehill just got there. He just got to be a top 15 quarterback last year. Right now, let's just say a healthy Cam Newton comes in and joins this Dolphins roster as is. How many wins? How many wins? Just humor me. How many wins does a healthy Cam Newton deliver to this Dolphins team?
They're a 500 team. I mean, a great year. They win 10 games. Great year. They're back where they were. They're right back where they were before all this turmoil and bold plan and tanking and whatever you want to call it. They're right back where they were.
With this roster, I believe Ryan Fitzpatrick can deliver 8 to 9 wins. With this roster and the 14 rookies coming in, I don't see any reason why a young Jordan Love or even a Justin Herbert or let me even throw you a Jacob Eason or Jalen Hurts can't come here, learn, develop, and blossom into something Dak Prescott-esque. I don't see any reason why it can't. So to me, this draft isn't all about, and I can tell you, quote your coach, Brian Flores, this draft isn't all about Tua and Burrow, because Brian Flores wants his 14 picks. He wants to use his 14 picks.
Yeah, and you know what? Every coach we've had in here has said it's not always about the quarterback. It's not about the quarterback. But you know what? It is about. It starts with the quarterback, Omar.
Adam Gase never said it wasn't about the quarterback. It was always about the quarterback with Adam Gase. So,
all right. Our next question comes from Karen. Would you be satisfied with the Dolphins taking O-line at 5 and selecting Jordan Love at 18?
Absolutely. For me, yes. Jordan Love is a young talent that I am intrigued by. I would like to see development from. I was not hot on him early on. Certainly didn't like him early in the Senior Bowl. Then when I got to watch him up close and personal, we were on the field for practice that was moved to South Alabama. I got to see 15 feet away from me the quick release, the arm angles he throws at, the ability to throw on the move with accuracy. There's a lot of things that he needs to clean up. A ton. But I think he potentially has the upside to be the best quarterback in this draft class with some great coaching. And I think Chan Gailey can give him that great coaching. Here's the name that came up when I talked with a scout. He said Patrick Mahomes-esque out of college, meaning there's a few plays a game that are dropping, and then there's other plays you scratch your head and say, what did he do? Why did he do that? And so, I'm not in the business of saying the Dolphins in this draft should take this or this guy. They all have pluses, but they all have obvious warts too. Fall in love, get the guy who you may. If it's Jordan Love, I'm fine with that. I question whether he'd be there at 18 though. That'd be if we're going to break. I think he'll be there at 18 because there are concerns about some marijuana use and character questions.
Yeah, we're concerned about that. Come on, Omar.
I mean, they're concerned, even though marijuana is legal in the NFL now. Who wants a quarterback that smokes weed, Dave? I don't think any team in the NFL wants a quarterback smoking weed. I'm just being honest with you.
We're okay with the tackles, but not the quarterback.
Yeah, tackles, defensive ends, quarterbacks, wide receivers. Everybody can smoke weed, but quarterback, that's a no-no.
If it's a team bonding experience, Omar.
Hey, it's about legal in America right now. Game of Thrones fanboy has a good one. Why on earth would this team take Herbert over Tua? And this, to me, is the most important question. Let me begin this. I've heard it from multiple people, and either this is the greatest smokescreen in NFL history, or it's truthfully what the Dolphins intend to do. There is a lot of chatter out there that Jordan Herbert is going to be the selection, even if Tua is on the board at 5. And this makes me so uncomfortable. I get it. Jordan Herbert, I've seen it. Top 5 arm in the NFL. There's nobody out there in the NFL right now, because Flacco used to have that arm, but he doesn't have it anymore. Aaron Rodgers used to have that arm, doesn't have it anymore. The arm is elite. The problem with Justin Herbert is...
I was going to say, Omar, you are so flustered by this idea that you keep calling him Jordan Herbert. So I know you're upset.
I'm bothered by this. He's like a pitcher who's got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and maybe he has a changeup, but some days it's hot and it's cold. There are no other pitches. And he makes beautiful passes.
I tell you what, you talk to other scouts, they say he's got every throw out there, every bag, every golf club in the bag that you need. So, look, I hope if they take Herbert, that is a scenario. I hope Tua is on the board. They take Herbert, so it's a clear cut. We graded Herbert better than Tua, and so there's no debate over did they really like him or how much did they like him. So it's clear cut. And look, there are people, a lot of people, Omar, grading Herbert over Tua, in part because they think with better coaching and better, offensive the system, he will be a better player.
The personality reminds me of Ryan Tannehill. It's meek. It's not a leader. It's very homely. To me, there is no alpha male in there. Brian Flores flat out said, I need an alpha male quarterback. And it's true. He said the great ones are alpha males. That is concern number one. You look at Tua, the anticipation he throws with, the accuracy that he throws with, the point, and I will tell you, Herbert has poise in the pocket. He's got mobility skills. He's not as accurate as Tua. He doesn't throw with anticipation. You watch his games. If it's not open, he's not throwing it. He's not throwing a receiver open. That, to me, is not an elite quarterback. And maybe you can coach him to do it, but I would rather see somebody do it before I coach him. And then the fact that he's doing it.
I'm not going to get into, and I don't know, Omar. My breakdown of the film, which I haven't done, but my football knowledge isn't enough to know Herbert over Tua. But you put Herbert in Alabama's offense where he's got 3 number 1 receivers. He's got every starter on the line is going to start in the NFL. And all of a sudden he's going to be making throws and feeling comfortable in the pocket in a way he wasn't at Oregon. That's what you also have to put into context with Tua. Okay, he's not going to be that comfortable in the NFL because nobody's going to be as comfortable in the NFL as he was at Alabama.
Well, I disagree with you from this standpoint. Yes, he had a lot of weapons, but the fact that Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs can catch the ball in stride and keep going, and the fact that Wills benefited from a quarterback who, when you did allow pressure, he can evade, he can step up, he can create another pocket for himself. He helped them just as much as they helped him.
I don't disagree with that. The question is, did Justin Herbert get that kind of help? So again, that's out there. That's something that Chris Greer and his staff have to break down in deciding. Which the question was Herbert over Tua. That would be a bold move. Well, again, what do they think of Tua's medical standpoint? That's what it comes down to.
If it wasn't for the medical, I have a firm belief that Tua would be the number 1 quarterback on the board.
But that's like, what does that matter? There is the medical there.
Okay.
That's a huge.
Well, we can factor the medical in, but Tua instantly injects hope and belief and excitement into your organization. I'm not sure Herbert does that.
And fear into the, like, are we banking on
Any quarterback you select is going to get you fear.
not like that, Omar, and you know
All right, that's fair. That's
okay.
fair.
Herbert GM 76. Now that's a name. Has our next question. What are your expectations about the beginning of the NFL season? Will it be on time? 1 month delayed? What's the story with the start of the season as you see it, Omar?
I can tell you right now, based on the people that I'm talking to in the NFL, the offseason program, done. Not happening. Maybe we throw in a mini camp. Maybe this is your summer vacation. Players generally get July off for their summer vacation. Oh, you will be in camp in July. And I do expect that we will have the NFL season and probably college season start. I think life will be back to normal probably in September.
Dr. Fauci talks.
What do you say?
Dr. Fauci took over our show there, Omar.
I do believe life will be back to normal in September. Primarily, I think the summer is going to benefit us. The summer is going to bring the heat that's needed in order to. This is about keeping COVID-19 from becoming an issue that hospitals and medical people cannot treat. And we're doing a decent enough job. So right now, let's get some PPE, personal protection equipment for hospital medical staffs so that they're safe and their family members like myself are safe. And let's hope that this gets under control, because right now it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough in April and May, but I think the sun will rise again in July.
My thought on that question is it's unanswerable right now. We need to get through this to get to where we can actually get a view of the other side right now. And we don't need to answer it right now. Let's not try to answer questions we don't have to. There'll be a time to address when things are ready to start again, and it's not now.
Definitely. Our final question comes from MVP Tua. Look at him. He's wishful thinking. When it comes to scouting and drafting players, what scares you the most about the Dolphins front office?
Well, let's lay all the cards on the table as we've seen them. If what scares you is the track record of the past, X number of years, and Chris Greer's been part of that. That's
been here for 20 years.
That's what scares you, okay? If he can build a great roster through the draft, wouldn't he have done it by now? That's what scares you. Now, the flip side is, okay, now he's really running things. He has meaning Chris Greer, he has full say. He built his front office, and it's a good front office. Marvin Allen, and Reggie McKenzie, guys.
Adam Egroff. Yeah, they got a good front office
there. Okay, but I'm saying, guys, so now he has a front office. He constructed to his strengths and what he needs. So we'll see what he does with that. And again, I like the free agency.
Here's what has me confident about what's going on there. The people that I talk to in the league and the circles, everybody loves Marvin Allen. He is top 5, if not the number 1 college talent evaluator in the NFL. I've seen it in person at the Senior Bowl. He was the most popular person there. Saw it at the Combine. Everybody wants to be around Marvin Allen because of what he brings to the table, the information that he has. Everybody wants to know who he likes. That I like. I like Chan Gailey from a developmental standpoint and ability to identify players that he wants to work with and coach. He's been coaching long enough so he knows the schemes and system. He knows the scheme and he knows who fits his scheme. What makes me uncomfortable, though, and this is my biggest fear, is that Chris Greer and the organization have not learned from their mistakes of the past. Prime example of this, Deion Jordan, the mistake you made, according to Chris Greer, was that you drafted a player projecting him to do something you never saw him do in college. Well, voila, who was one of your first draft picks? Charles Harris. You drafted him, projecting him to do something you never saw him do in college. So you just made a double mistake. Don't do that again. Do not draft a quarterback without an alpha male trait who you know will not be a leader of your team, a la Justin Herbert. Don't do it again. Because if you do it again, then you clearly have not, no matter what the talent is, and Justin Herbert has elite arm. But can he lead a team? He could not lead Oregon to the talent level and the heights that the Oregon program was at. So now you're going to add him to an NFL team and expect him to lead them to greater heights? Come on, man.
Poor Omar if they draft Herbert, huh? It'll be like Ryan Tannehill for him all over again as far as
I can't do it, Dave. Can't do 7 more years.
Trade up for Burrow. Whatever my thought is, they made these bold moves in August last year, the trades to acquire draft picks. Don't hoard the draft picks now. Don't fall in love with we got too many we don't want to trade our draft picks. No, you acquire these draft picks to trade them. Go up and get Burrow. End the question. He's the franchise quarterback, the sure thing, the surest thing. As much as you can predict one in this draft, go get him.
Definitely. Well, Dave, thank you for joining us. Thank you for stay safe. I think we'll be back next week to do a sort of draft primer. If we didn't already talk enough of the draft, more draft talk.
I'll be sitting here in this room for the next week, so whenever you want to chat, Omar, just turn on your video, okay?
See you, Dave.
See you, Omar. Stay safe.
Everybody stay safe.